Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Restaurant Journeys. Today I got a chance to talk with Chandler Lyles, the owner of Lyles BBQ, and his story is absolutely phenomenal. There is so much valuable content in this that whether you're just starting your restaurant journey or you're all the way in, there is so much that you can learn from what he has to offer. So I hope you guys enjoyed this interview, and I just want to apologize in advance because the audio quality in the interview is honestly quite shocking. This was the very first time doing this, so a few unexpected things happened, so I hope you can excuse me, but next time it's going to be a lot better. Hope you guys enjoy.
Welcome Chandler Lyles to the Restaurant Journeys interview. Thank you so much for doing this, man. Really appreciate it.
Hey man, thanks for having me. It's early here in Kentucky where I'm at. It's late there where you are in Australia, but through the power of the internet,
absolutely,
a way to make it.
How good is that, honestly? If it wasn't for this, we'd all be struggling to learn from everyone else. Thank you, internet. All right. Cool. Let's jump right into it. We've got a couple of questions to get through today, and I think we're going to learn a hell of a lot from you, so that's going to be awesome. So the very first thing is, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself, a bit about your background, and what you're doing currently?
Sure, yeah. My name's I'm Chandler Lyles. Yeah, we already did that part of the interview, right? No, I own a barbecue restaurant here in Lexington, Kentucky. With my family. We've done that for about 5 years. Before that, I was in the United States Air Force, and I was a contracting specialist in that branch of the government. So basically what I did was spend government dollars. And I did that from 19 to 20, I was 24 when I left that. Okay. And during that time, it was really nice. I had no world experience. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I tried college. It didn't really work. And, I dropped out in the Air Force, and I really fell in love with business and business principles and negotiation and relationships and all the cool stuff. And, I felt like I got a college education in the Air Force.
That's awesome, man.
And I sat in boardrooms with really high-end people, and, it was a great experience, and I learned a ton.
That's awesome.
The only problem was the military in any sort of government organization, they're very, very bureaucratic and structured in the way you progress. So it's not really a meritocracy where the better you do, the more reward you get. It's really, you got to wait on your turn, and then you get promoted and move up the chain. So 3 years in, I had a 4-year contract. 3 years in, I decided to leave. And, I've been doing barbecue as a hobby on the side. My parents have been doing barbecue as a hobby on the side. So we all just decided to move back to Lexington, which was the last place we all lived together. And we literally bought a tent. We spent like $5,000 on a tent and a smoker, and literally like a generic white pop-up 10x10 tent, like you see in the tailgates or Sam's Club or Walmart, whatever. And we literally just set it up on the side of the road and started selling. And that's the big thing, and we can get into that. Like, I truly believe you have to start as small as possible with zero debt, and let people pay for your business. You shouldn't be the one funding your business.
Absolutely.
You are the one, if you're going all in funding your business, that means you really don't have a product to sell yet, and all you've done is the easy stuff. Is spend money.
Awesome, man. That's a very interesting start. So your actual love for this whole business thing kind of developed when you were in the Air Force, right?
Yeah, even going back further than that, I didn't really, I was too young at the time, but I definitely did the whole lemonade stand growing up. I was organizing events amongst my friends. And I even in college, I was in college for 3 semesters, and everybody else would go out on the weekends partying and everything else. And I would literally fry chicken wings. I'd fry chicken wings and sell them to fraternity brothers.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, $5-6 a pop, and that was.
So you pretty much started a food business in uni then.
Yeah.
That's nice.
I could have saved myself a lot of time had I just immediately, but I took a detour and went to the Air Force. So.
But I'm sure all that experience through the Air Force, I'm sure it translated over to actual.
Yeah. It's part of I think that's one of the things that I've had to really come to grips with is that there's a journey that has to be traveled, right? It's ironic that that's the name of this podcast. It really is. You'd love to go back and you'd love to shortcut and you could. Now, if I had to go back to 19 and relive the last decade over again, I would do a ton differently.
For sure.
You know, just because I already have the knowledge. But the reason you can't do that is because you had to pay the price to learn things.
That's
So,
it.
you know, that's what's so great about doing this podcast. That's why I wanted to come on, is because anything that anybody can learn, like if somebody can learn one thing from my story and my journey, then I'm happy to wake up and do this morning. And I think that's the one thing I've done really well that's helped me be, you know, as successful as I've been at as young an age as I've been, is I'm relentless about studying, like putting stuff into practice. Just like asking people to just consume, and then never go do. And all they do is, you know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. I in fact, I think for a lot of people, before they're first starting, they actually get stuck in the space where they're kind of very scared to take the first step. So they kind of just try to soak in as much knowledge as possible, but it kind of just ends up as more like a procrastination before you actually come out there and do what you need to do.
You know, it's funny how I actually got into selling food. First step, I mean, after the college experience, I was a single guy in the Air Force, and I was doing barbecue as a backyard hobby. And then I got married, and my amazing, wonderful wife Julia, who's a third grade teacher here in America, she's amazing. But we had one of those like early on couple discussions, and she was like, "You got to stop spending all this money on your weekend hobby." And I was a little bit too. I don't know how to describe this. I was a little too like headstrong, I think.
Okay.
And I basically, instead of trying to find a good compromise, was like, "Oh, I bet I can go and sell enough to go." And I did hear the meaning behind the meaning, and so I literally had some ribs and I cut them up and I went around my office like a degenerate drug dealer and sold enough to break even. So I was able to barbecue that weekend for free, but it kind of snowballed from there into where I was literally taking vacation time to fulfill rib orders. Like I sold 40 racks of ribs, you know, the month before I left the Air Force. And that was the highest I'd gotten up to on a little small offset, you know, department store smoker. I mean, it was nothing fancy. I was doing stuff in the smoker and in the oven. So, but I guess the point there, the lesson to take away is I started selling stuff before I developed a logo or a mission or a game plan or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
All the stuff they tell you to do, like those are like steps 9, 10, and 11. Like, you know, learn how to do the thing, then sell the thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you get into the formalization of it. But everybody wants to start with that stuff because designing a logo is fun.
Yeah, dude, you know, to be honest, that is some of the most important advice I think you can give pretty much anyone starting the business, because the amount of people I've seen when they're going to start a business, the first thing they say is, "Hey man, you know, I think we should go design the business cards." You know, and you're just thinking to yourself, you know, it's the same thing you said. The business cards is step 50. You know what I mean? The first thing is making the money. That's the entire purpose of the business, creating the product and actually selling it and making the money. And I think that's spot on what you did. You know what I mean? You focused on doing the thing and not all the other things that kind of support the main idea, but they're really not necessary at the start. You know, and
I mean, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please go on.
You literally have to think, okay, like, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Like, maybe you buy business cards, right? Like, don't buy 10,000 business card. Like, spend the more money, buy 100, and then move on. Like, spend $500 having the damn business card designed. Just get something together that's like I love the, I never read the book, but I love the premise, the minimally viable product.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Whoever. And I love the theory behind that, which is like, get something out there, get feedback, you learn on the fly, and then like if you're going to start from zero, know nothing about like the restaurant industry specifically, then you're going to have to do it that way. Now that's path one. The path, like people ask me, like I'm thinking about starting my own restaurant, you know, should I do that? I always ask them like, well, have you ever worked in restaurants? And the answer 95% of the time is no. I just like cooking, I like doing stuff. Which I'm not mad at, by the way, because that's literally what I did. But what I would suggest people do now, and if I had to go back and do it all over again, I would have gone and worked for a restaurant that was similar to what I was trying to build. Because you learn so much. And by the way, you learn on someone else's dime. So I've spent a lot of money over the last 5 years learning and re-educating myself on a whole new platform, right?
No, man. I think those are some super important points, especially the thing about, like the whole MVP thing. The fact is, it's really rare that someone's going to go out there and do the right thing the first time. You know what I mean? You'll have to iterate on the idea a little bit. That if you spend too much time trying to get it perfect, it's definitely not going to be perfect when you first put it out there, and you're going to have to do the iteration. So it makes more sense to just start by putting something out there, and then going through that iterative process of actually building it into something special, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, man, that's great. All right, let's get to the next one. All right, you already told us a decent bit about how you started your business. So you started with buying the tent and the smoker, and you just made it happen. But tell us a bit about the progress, like what happened from that point, and from there, how did you take it forward?
Yeah, so we did the tent on the side of the road thing for about a year. That was a really important year because we learned a lot. Mm-hmm. We learned at a low risk level. There was no risk of bankruptcy. There was no risk of anything other than we wasted some time. But we learned a lot, right? Yeah. And we did like $70,000 in revenue that whole year. So we were all working other jobs and doing that, part-time sort of thing. So. But we had to learn, like, did we really want to do this? Did we really like washing dishes on a Saturday? Did we really like not hanging out with friends on Friday to go work? Yeah. And you gotta experience that pain, because when you open up your own restaurant, as many restaurant owners that are listening to this already know, you're going to work a lot of Fridays and Saturdays because the other people are hanging out at restaurants. Like, where do you think you're going to go hang out? You're going to hang out at your restaurant. So we took the tent. We did that for a year. That was a grind, getting rained on, events canceled. And the only reason I'm like on this part of the book is just the easy, free, fun, successful stuff. But that's about origin stories, you know what I mean? Like, we were only in the garage for like a month, and then all of a sudden, like, now we're a successful business, right? But that's not
what you said. Yeah.
Just remember that. The first couple of years are going to be a grind for you. But that's the one thing I try to really tell people, that just be prepared to just, sacrifice everything and grind. Like, I did a YouTube video where I talk about the 6 things that, I wish I knew before I was an entrepreneur. And one of it's part of that early on stage. So,
hey man, could you just say that last part again? Because it kind of got a little bit cut out over there. Because I think it was something a bit important.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I was just saying that, you're basically like, I was an entrepreneur. One of a lot to dream. What you don't really like, that might be easy to understand logically. Like, intellectually, we understand what it means to sacrifice a lot. Emotionally and actually practically, it's a totally different situation, life and reality.
Yeah, man, completely agree. It's really the difference between just reading about it in a book and actually going out there and feeling it. Because, I mean, it's one thing to know that you're going to put a lot of pressure in your relationship, and it's another thing to actually feel that pressure, pretty much unfold in front of you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's such a good point. Yeah, you're right. I mean, to feel it is different than to know it's coming is one thing. Yeah. To have the experience of having felt it and come through on the other side is totally different.
Which is why I think it's actually great that you
went from the 10.
No, I'm sorry, man. Go on. You went from the 10? I was going to say, I think it's great that you actually started the way you started, because it meant that, it feels like you didn't go all in straight away, so you kind of got to get a taste for it, and if at the end of the day that you didn't like it, you could at least kind of you step back. But I think a lot of people, which, as you said, they like the idea of cooking food, and so they said, hey, I'm going to open a restaurant, and they just dive right in, and it's kind of just one big tornado coming right at them, because you kind of have no idea what to expect, right?
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. You got the experience at the least amount of cost possible. Yeah. Like, so many small businesses in America at least fail within the first 5 years. Like, the number's like 80%, something crazy. Like, there's got to be a trend as to why that happened. Yeah. And I think that first year, and even the year after that, like, we haven't even got to phase 2 of the story where we're at now. Like, going through that pain is part of the building of the foundation that helped us be, where we're at
today. Yeah, man.
A reasonable, successful restaurant that's been open 5 years.
Which is amazing, honestly, because yeah, man, because in this industry, I don't think many businesses actually end up going beyond maybe 3-4 years. Is it? It's probably quite short-lived for a lot of people.
Yeah, restaurants are even shorter because the walls are so thin and the cash flow. People who are in restaurants, they do what's called a white box build out there. They take 4 blank walls and they put their restaurant in it.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that, it's $100,000 in America to build a white box to standards here. Yeah, so you're going to have a ton of money. The Loan Administration, which will guarantee like 70% of your loan. So they take out, like, it's usually older people that have some equity in homes. They take they take all and they put it this loan, because banks will not loan you the full amount. Like, they want to be 100% covered when it comes to restaurants. So they're going to require that 30% that they're missing from the government guarantee. So, you got people taking out $100,000 loans on their personal residences, and it's a sad situation, because if they close the restaurant, you can't even really negotiate away your vendors. I mean, you're on the hook for a ton of money, and unfortunately, it's a lot of people really ruin their financial lives.
Yeah, man.
We try to avoid, and I've been traded. The only thing I would do differently, like I said, is I would have gone and worked for somebody for 4 years.
Yeah.
Saved the money. Done it that way. Like, that would be my recommendation. But live and learn, right?
Yeah, for sure, man. To be honest, I think the path that you picked is pretty much just as good as going down the path of working for an actual restaurant business, because at the end of the day, at least you get that management and early on experience of actually running the whole operation without the huge downside with it. I mean, it might not be possible for everyone to start that way, but I think if it is, that's definitely probably one of the better ways to actually start this whole thing.
Yeah, I agree. I really do agree, because now people in our area have recognized our logo for 5 years versus maybe 2 years. So we do have some benefit of, like, in restaurants, you have to be open for a certain amount of time to really gain market traction. I mean, you literally have to be open as a restaurant for like 5 years to hit any sort of market saturation where people know who you are.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Even to this day, like, you still have people come in and go, "Oh, I had no idea you were here," and I've lived in Lexington for 15 years. It's crazy. Like, so anyway, so kind of moving along, we went from a tent on the side of the road. You'll love this. We went to a gas station in a small suburb of Lexington. Lexington's only about 500,000 people, so we went to a small suburb with about 50,000 people. And it wasn't even all the way in the suburb, which would have been a better location.
Okay.
It was like in between the suburb and Lexington. Think about like a gas in the middle of two towns.
Okay.
Where we set up.
So it's mainly like a lot of people passing through, right?
Yeah, they're driving. They're doing like 80 miles per hour. Like, we were trying to do some like a metric to American standards.
No, it's okay. The miles to kilometers is 80 miles an hour is really fast. I know that much.
yeah, it's moving, and like, so we got like that location was great from a traffic count standpoint. It got 40,000 cars a day, but they were doing 80 miles an hour. So
not everyone's gonna be stopping. Yeah.
Yeah, so we had to drive a lot of traffic, and we did that with Facebook ads and Instagram ads and creating content, and we can get into that in a little bit. But that gas station was next to it was a gas station, our restaurant, a liquor store, and then the cherry on top was the hourly hotel off to the right, and so that was the location trifecta.
Okay, so, all right. So when it came to choosing this location, I'm assuming the actual hotel played a part in the whole picking of it, but I mean, okay, no.
It was we didn't realize it was an hourly hotel when we first opened. I mean, I make that joke. It was seriously like a hourly hotel, and all the sort of like humors come with that. And those customers don't really pay $14 for a brisket sandwich. You know what I mean? So, but we picked that location because it was the same mentality as the tent. We'd never operated the brick and mortar restaurant. We needed to get experience. We needed We needed to progress the business forward.
Yeah.
And we realized, like, the cheapest way to do that is to move into a restaurant that's already built out. We moved into a place that already had walk-in coolers, already had hoods, already had flooring.
That's good.
Had everything. We had a lipstick on it, moved the equipment in. And we didn't move in a full range of equipment either. It's important to know that. We bought the minimum amount of equipment we needed to open. Like literally an oven and a steam table, and that was pretty much it. I mean, and we spent more money decorating where the customers would come in, and we figured we would sacrifice if the customers were having a good time. We opened it at like $15,000. So we opened an entire restaurant with 15 grand.
Wow. And that is a starkly low figure compared to how much some people would spend.
Yeah, I mean, the other side of the extreme for a new restaurant is $400,000.
Yeah, as you're saying.
I would definitely recommend doing that again. But again, same lessons with the tent. We took the next small step forward. We were on the hook for a little bit more money, but we were still learning, like, okay, what do we like about year number 2 of Missing Saturdays and doing dishes, cooking food, and now we get more Yelp reviews and TripAdvisor and Facebook, and now you start. And when we were in the tent, we had a loyal following. It was early adopters. Everybody loved us. Nobody said anything negative because, like, we were there face to face with them in a parking lot.
Yeah.
They're not going to sure. We're into a brick and mortar restaurant where we're getting all kinds of traffic we drive, traffic that we recommended, and then traffic that just shows up because they happen to stop at the gas station. And there were some people that really didn't like what we did, so we had to experience that for the first time. But we did all of that, and we came through it, and we realized, like, oh, hey, we really like doing this. We were in that restaurant for 2 years, I think, total. And, we went from, I think we did 60,000 for the tent in year 1. We did half a year of the restaurant. That first year was like 280. And then that second year, we did like 680. So, and that's
some good growth.
It's no alcohol. It was a 35-seat restaurant, and it had all of the problems of location. And restaurant location, I have come to learn, is the only thing, like, that matters.
It's one of the biggest things, right? Yeah, for sure. I can imagine that.
Start with location if you're opening something new. That's something I've learned. So, but we did that for 2 years, and again, we learned a lot. And the only reason we were successful in that location, because that's been 100 different restaurants, they've all closed, but we were successful.
Seriously?
Successful. Yeah. I mean, we were literally building that place out, and people would just walk in, and, like, it was a small town, so they just walk in, like, what are you guys doing? And we're like, working. Why are you here? Like, who invited you into my closed business? They would come in, and we'd be nice to them. We'd talk, and of course, we're like, oh, hey, we're opening a barbecue restaurant. Make sure to come back. We'd like to have you. And they said they would almost all of them would end the conversation with, I really hope you guys make it. This has been a lot of different restaurants. And like
that would not be encouraging, man.
No, not at all. Like, the first time, I'm pretty sure I remember looking at my mom and going, like, what? Why would they think it's okay to come in and say to us? They don't know us. And then it happened like time number 10, and I was like, I think we might be in trouble. And luckily, we did some smart things from an advertising standpoint. We had a really good product, and we were able to keep costs low. And because we didn't have a bunch of debt we were paying, we were able to cycle through there. And we were able to get out on the other side. So basically where we're at is that 3 years of credibility. Now we have 3 years of P&Ls. We have 3 years of marketing and brand building and everything else. Now we went and we moved into a bigger, the biggest leap we've taken to date. I still haven't gone to the extreme of, like, white box build it perfectly. Exactly what I want, right? We went to there was another barbecue restaurant here in Lexington, and I literally I believe in networking as much as possible, so I went and tried to get to know the owners, and I just happened to be talking to them, and we had just started the process of, like, we need a new location, or is it going to be location 2, or are we going to close this and move, So I went and met with these people that own this restaurant. I just walked in one night, ordered food, happened to talk to the owner. And then through the conversation, I brought up that we were looking for another location, and they were like, well, we're looking to sell. So it just worked out that way. So we bought their restaurant. We didn't really buy, like we bought their equipment, essentially is what we bought. We bought them out of their lease, we bought their equipment. So we did all of that for $100,000.
Okay.
So I'm still only at $100,000. They already had all the equipment we were going to need. It was a super quick flip. We did it in we did all the work ourselves. We did the whole thing in 60 days. You go to our YouTube channel, if you see me in a barbecue restaurant, this is Lyles BBQ, that's our restaurant. That's where we're, all that work, all those boards on the wall.
So this is your main location now, right? This third one is where you are at today. And I'm assuming this third one is the point at which you knew that you were in this, you were actually in this properly. Because to dial it back a little bit, it kind of sounded like the first time with the tent, you were kind of just testing it out, you were kind of seeing whether you wanted it, and then you got a bit more serious with the first location at the gas station. But I'm assuming when you went from the gas station to this was when you decided that this is for real, right? I'm actually going for it now. Okay, and then so what exactly changed in that period? So when you were in the gas station, at what point did you decide, I think this is what I'm going to be doing and it's working out correctly and I'm going to take that next step?
It just kept being fun. It never got to the point where it was I don't want to do this anymore.
Okay.
And it was a project that I personally really enjoyed working on. I was really enjoying working with my family. It was just a really great time for us. It gave me flexibility. I mean, there was a lot that I just really enjoyed about it. And I thought that, this is something I want to be involved with on some level for the rest of my life. And
that's cool.
I learned that I didn't necessarily want to be the one in the kitchen washing dishes, but I was willing, my family and I were willing to pay that price to get to the point we're at now, where I don't have to wash dishes necessarily on the weekends anymore.
Yeah.
And it was just I don't think there was one specific moment. There was a bunch of little moments that sort of all added up.
Yeah.
This is a good thing to be in. We just got to keep, you basically all along the way have to figure out what it is you want out of the business.
Yeah.
And whether that's you want to own your job or you want to own a business that just pays you money, hire a GM, all that stuff is different for everybody else.
Yeah.
So where we're at today is that my parents run the day-to-day operations of the business. My mom, really. It's her. We branded her as Mama Lyles.
Nice.
And she is a Southern chef, and that's her restaurant, and that's where she does everything there on the day-to-day basis. And we sort of plateaued, and we realized that where we're at now, we tried a small location in the mall for a 1-year lease. Again, same sort of principle as before. We were just trying it to see if it worked, and it's gone okay. Mall traffic is down. We thought maybe there'd be some benefit to it, but it's just average. So we probably won't renew that lease, and we'll go back down to one location, and then that'll just be it for us. I think that's really where we're happy, and I think most people don't figure that out. They go, oh, I need to open more, or I have to. They don't know what they want, and I think that's important. You have to figure out what it is you want exactly, and then work towards it. Work towards obtaining it.
So now, on that note, what exactly is it that you wanted? I mean, did you have a clear, did you have a clear idea of what you wanted when you started it, or at some point it came to you?
Yeah, this is where my story probably goes a little bit differently than most restaurant owners that you end up having on the show. Is that we ended up being on this American TV show called The Prophet with a guy named Marcus Simonis, and through that show, we developed a new partnership with him, and now we have a consumer packaged goods company where we sell barbecue sauce, and we're going to sell more products, more Southern food products in the future. With my mom as Mama Lyles as the brand face. So I do a lot of work for that company, but through that episode, basically, I'll spoil the ending for you. It ends with me getting a job working for his food company, and so now I get to take the lessons that I've learned over the last 5 years working with my small business and working with other people that own small businesses, and I get to help at a larger scale. And I think that's what I really figured out about myself, is that I I love business. I love the art of business, and I am obsessed with learning it and studying it. And I'm not perfect, and I don't know everything, but I really want to try to get to that level. So that's what I'm trying to do now. And so I ended up leaving being a self-employed entrepreneur to go work for somebody, and that's a different experience.
Hugely different.
For about 2 months now. Yeah, exactly. So
Nice. How's that going, man?
What's that?
And so how's that going now? So, like a big change for you going from this to that.
Yeah, it's going really, really well. It's been a lot of fun. I still am in the honeymoon phase of it, I think. So ask me in 6 months.
Maybe I will.
It's great. I feel very lucky. I feel very blessed. And it's kind of surreal sometimes to look back at the last 10 years and go, like, wow, I can't believe everything has led up to
this moment
right now,
yeah. And I'm sure you never saw it coming, right? From where you started to where you are now. Yeah. I think that's really different for a lot of people, because a lot of people would actually have that. Well, not a lot of people, but I think many people would start with this vision. But I think you kind of just started with your passion and what you liked, and it grew from that slowly, which I actually think is a great way to go about it, right?
That's a great point. Like people make like what's your 5 and 10 year plan, and I personally don't really believe in that. I think it's impossible to plan that far ahead.
Agreed.
You don't know what's going to happen between now and then.
Yeah.
But I know that I want to be making an impact. I know the values to the things I want. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And as long as those values are basically in line with what I'm doing, then I know I'm in the right place. And the moment that they're not in line with what I'm doing, then I need to start looking for a different path.
Yeah.
And what I realized was that with the restaurant, I don't want to run a restaurant. I don't want to run a single restaurant. I don't want to be a general manager of a restaurant. Like, it's just not my passion. My mom loves it. She's great at it. She's having a good time. That's her dream job right now. And so I was self-aware enough to go, okay, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
So, it's been a great ride, and like moving on to the next thing. It happened. I got lucky. It happened to be a TV show, and it happened to be a job offer out of that TV show, which is so cool and great. But even if it wasn't that, I'm still going to be looking for something else. So, I dabbled with marketing companies, starting a marketing company, working for a marketing company. That was the thing I really became passionate about, was helping people tell stories and market their brand to everything, like all the different customers in the world.
Well, man, I think you're doing a great job of marketing your brand, because honestly, that story is a super helpful story. I think just a lot of people hearing that and hearing you go through those steps, from start to that, I think it's really going to be hopefully an eye opener for a lot of people, and hopefully they're going to learn from that, not to get caught up in the details, because to lead this on to the next thing, I was actually going to ask you. I was going to ask you if you had a business plan when you started this. And based on what you were saying, just correct me. Yeah, I can only see it from your facial expression. It seems like you didn't have a business plan, and to me, based on what you said, it sounded like you had a plan, in the sense that your plan was what you valued, and essentially you just knew every step along the way, as long as I just stick to what I value and I make decisions according to my values and what I want, then it's kind of going to work out in the direction of what I wanted to. Is that the case?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, in the beginning, when we weren't working with other people, we weren't getting investors, we weren't working with a bank. Like, there was nobody to tell you to make a business plan. And I'm glad I didn't, because after talking to other people that actually did business plans, like, most of them end up in a drawer and never get looked at.
That's so true, man.
It's really a big, giant waste of time. And again, there's no risk in putting down a business plan. Think about that. There's nothing dangerous about writing on a piece of paper that in year 5 we're going to be at a 15% profitability and we're going to spend this on, there's no risk in that. You're just doing easy stuff. Like, it's tedious and but it's easy. There's no consequence. It's really hard to go to a local business that has a real estate office, let's say, of 10 realtors in there, and you walk in and everybody stares at you and you go, "Hey guys, I'm Chandler. Would you like to buy some barbecue?" Like, that's
the hard part, man. That is the business right there.
Doing the hard work will always be better for you in the long run. It's like, just ignore the stuff that's easy and feels good to check off your to-do list, and go do the stuff that is hard. I mean, that's probably the thing that helped us be the most successful, is that we just kept, like, it was hard to set up on the side of the road and have bad weather,
For sure.
bad days.
Yeah.
But you did the work, we sold the product, we got the experience, and then we went to the next thing, and then the next thing, and now we are where we are now. And I think that's the thing. If you're going to be out there and you're looking to start a restaurant, start selling products. Like, there are food laws, but like you can make food in your kitchen and go to like your neighborhood, whatever, and you can sell stuff. Like, you can do something. And like, if you've never sold food before, don't open a restaurant. Like, get somebody to give you money for your food before you open a restaurant.
Well, that might become the slogan for this, because I think that's a very good point. You know, I'm sure you've experienced it a lot based on what you said, right? That a lot of people are just coming straight away, trying to get straight into it without actually even learning the basics about it, right? And I think the other thing is, as you said, it's impossible to learn these things up front. You're not going to be able to read a book, and you're not going to be able to go to university. And the only way to do it is, what you said, when you're going standing in front of the people and you're selling what you got to sell, right? That is the moment where you actually learn the important things, right?
Yeah, just have an overwhelming amount of patience. Like, there's always, like, business deals will feel like once in a lifetime things, and like you'll romanticize them in your head and go, if I don't take advantage of this now, I won't be the next, Scrooge McDuck sitting on billions of gold coins and diving into them every day, right? I don't know if you guys had Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah, we've heard it, absolutely.
Great American. Yeah, so, that's the feeling that I have to fight a lot, is that, this might be a good business deal. It makes sense for us and fit with the calm, then we don't need to do it. And that's, the times we've gotten into trouble as a business are the times that we go against that. And, I think that just realize it'll all work out in the end if you keep doing the right thing. And if, by the way, it doesn't, and it's really not your fault that, like, I don't know, like, if
sometimes stuff happens, man.
Yeah, like if you get a health thing, or like if something happens, like you just can't, like, you fail and it just is what it is. Like, it just is what it is.
Yeah.
You're not a bad person for having had that happen to you, but you did everything you could. You can still go to bed at night knowing that you did your best. And like, you got to be okay with that. You got to be confident enough and happy enough with yourself to go, you know what, I don't care what anybody else thinks. Like, I know that I did the best I could, and that is the end of the story. And then move on to the next thing a week after you about it.
For sure.
Just move on.
And on the other side of that is, right, if you actually didn't do everything in your power, then you're going to feel that guilt. You know what I mean? That guilt is going to carry you around. You're going to look back on it later on and you're going to be like, man, I did not do everything that I could have done to make it happen.
Yeah, and even if you have those moments, like, I mean, you're learning. I mean, part of the journey is that we're learning, right?
Yeah,
we
for sure.
don't know what we don't know, and you need the experience of, like, you know what, I should have done the hard thing.
Yeah.
Right? I should have done that. I messed that up. That's on me. Like, if you don't own that mistake and you don't learn from it, guess what you're going to do 5 years later? Like, it doesn't matter if you're working for somebody. It doesn't matter if you're trying to start your own thing all over again. Like, you're going to default back into those old habits, and you're just going to, like, not do the hard work again, and then you're going to get the same result, and then you're going to be like, then you're going to end up being one of these people that are like, man, it's hard to, like, it's too hard to run a business. It's like, little man can't get ahead.
You'll make every excuse under the book to try to cover up what you messed up on.
Yeah, when you realize that you're in control of everything, like, your life opens up for you.
Yeah.
When you realize it's your fault, and it's your fault for being successful, and your fault for being failure, like, life becomes a lot simpler that way, because no one else is like the puppet master behind your life strings, right? Like, everyone telling the world, this is what I want, and then you go get it. And that might sound schmarmy, that might sound like multi-level marketing bullshit. Like, it's not. It's a principle that, I've lived my life by for the last decade, and it's worked for me. And that's really the only advice I can give you, is what's worked for me.
To be honest, I think that is one of the most fantastic pieces of advice, because it sounds unrealistic to say that everything is your fault, but the second that you accept that, you know, at the end of the day, everything could be your fault and you have responsibility for everything, right? That's when you also feel in control of the situation. But at the end of the day, if you just keep passing it on, be like, hey, there's nothing I could do about this, there's nothing I could do about this, then you're never going to feel that control to actually, you know, that you can make a difference.
Yeah, I think about it this way, right? Like, so there's this guy in America named Jocko Willink. I don't know.
Oh, dude, you should not have brought him up. Absolutely love him.
Jocko is somebody I consider a virtual mentor.
For sure.
I study from every week.
Yeah.
I read his books and learn from him. And the thing I love the most about Jocko is his ownership of everything.
Yeah.
And that's really where my mentality comes from on that. You know, an example of his philosophy played out in the restaurant world would be, it's the market is deciding that pigs are now like dogs and we don't eat pigs anymore. Our pets in our backyard. And like most people in my position, I'm in the barbecue business. Like pig is very important.
It is an important thing.
Mm-hmm. And so, you know, you have to like. You have two options in that moment. You either go like, life's not fair, this isn't okay, like it was easier back in my day, and like these people that are changing, like you're basically complaining that the market is doing what the market does and moving.
Yeah.
And what Jocko would tell you to do is to say, all right, pigs or dogs, good. Time to find a new thing. Maybe we can do mushrooms. Maybe we can do salads. Maybe we can stop being a barbecue restaurant and be a Southern food restaurant. I mean, you gotta own that moment and just go, you know what? Like it was my fault for going all in on pigs and becoming too dependent on pigs as a menu item. Mm-hmm. So let me now go to smoked mushrooms. I mean, you gotta just say like, you know what? Like I like he would even go as extreme to be like, okay, you have cancer, like good. Like what's the good that's gonna come out of that? And just own it, because you whether you want it or you don't want it, or you own it or you don't own it, like you still have that.
You have to deal with it, right?
Your cards aren't changing until you change your cards. I think that's the biggest thing to take away. And that's the same thing with owning your own business. Like your sales are down at your restaurant, like, okay, good. We learned that what we've done to this point doesn't work. Maybe we should get an online ordering system, right?
Yeah, that's it.
You know, it is more people are on their phones now than ever before. Okay, cool. Like, we've got to get online ordering. We've got to pay this. We use DoorDash for delivery here at the restaurant, and that's like Uber Eats. And it's, they take a 20% commission on every sale. So for like every $10 in a thin margin business,
it's a lot to lose, man.
$2. Guess what? That's what customers want. And we were one of the first small businesses to offer delivery, and we benefited from that. You have to say, like, okay, it is what it is. The market is what the market is, and we can either spend a ton of money and a ton of effort trying to build walls and redirect this giant stream of water, is how I think about the market, and it just goes where it goes. And unless you've got billions of dollars to build a giant dam and move it, you're not going to move it. So like, go with it while you can, build up your boat while you can, and then eventually you'll have the money to move the river if you want. But most of us, 99.9% of people listening to this, will never have that much power. So just own what's going on, good and bad, and react to it.
Yeah. Man, I can tell you, without a doubt, Jocko would have loved what you said. It sounded exactly like the way he would have said it. And for anybody watching this,
so I hope you would like it.
to be honest, it's probably not his idea either, because everyone can think of it, but he has embodied that idea. And for anybody watching this, I highly recommend you check out Jocko's podcast, because it's not just about business, it's about life, and it will give you a new perspective, which was partly just shared over here. So fantastic, man. Let me see what else I got, because honestly, I don't think anything's going to be exciting as what you've set up to this point. Hopefully this.
We need 2 seconds to reconvene here, because that was the moment.
It was the moment, absolutely, man. There's always something bonding that happens when two people know the same thing, but they don't know each other, know about it, and then they bring it up and they both appreciate it so much. I think that's exactly what happened here.
I agree, man. Yeah, I mean, well, like, the thing is, like, I truly believe that you know, the saying, like, the teacher will appear when the student is ready.
Yeah.
You will never, until, I'm sorry for taking, like, this is a great podcast.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's quiet, but if you're watching the video of this, you see me, I'm trying to walk through this.
Nah, man, take your time, think about it.
Until you, yeah, I mean, until you are until you're in a place where you're ready to receive the instruction, until you're in a place to where you can actually act on the instruction that's given to you, your body is going to ignore it. Your subconscious is going to never see it. Like, if somebody came up to me right now and was like, here's how to be a Fortune 500 CEO, like, that'd be really interesting. That's a great, you know, dream that I can have for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I would do nothing with that information.
Yeah.
And so even if somebody came right now and was like, here's the blueprint on how to get to that point, like, I'm not even close to ready for that. So I would never see that coming. So if you're out there listening to this right now, it's kind of the weird universe's way of saying, like, hey, you know, open up and, like, you know, listen to this and react to it. Right? And if you didn't hear it, you didn't hear it. You never know anything. But at this point, if you've heard something that changed your life and is hard information to take in and deal with, you know, back to do the hard thing first. You know, if this is hard to listen to and it's hard to, like, you're butting up against it, like, oh yeah, it'd be so easy to sell. Like, you got to go and change what's wrong in your life if you want something different.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. I think a point to build on what you said, right, is that the part about how, you know, you probably hear the information, but it's not really going to register. I think the way I think about that is that there's a difference between knowing something and actually realizing it and making it like a belief. Because at the end of the day, right, 99% of people know that, hey, it's probably a good idea to exercise, it's probably a good idea to drink a glass of water every day. And it's like, you know these pieces of knowledge, you obviously know these things, but the difference between just knowing it and realizing it is, if you've actually felt it, then it would make its way out. You know, it would make its way out as a behavior. You'd actually be doing the thing, and so I think that's exactly what you're trying to say, is that, you know, you can get this amazing information, but until it actually sinks in, you're not actually going to do anything about it, right?
To build on that, if you are, like, I've read probably business books over the last 10 years. I mean, I love reading. I try to read as much as I can. When I started, like, everything was new information for me. I was like, I just loved every book I read. I thought they were all great, yada, yada, yada. And then something happened around, book 20. I started to realize a lot of these guys were just saying the same things as everybody else over and over and over again. And what I realized, at first I got mad. I was like, oh, this person's just stealing from this person, and they don't have an original thought. But then what I realized was, oh, that's actually not the case. What's going on is that there's really only like 20 principles of business you have to master, and then you'll be a successful small business owner. And that was a big realization for me. So there's nothing new that we're saying here.
Yeah.
Right? It's just our different way and unique
of actually saying it, and hopefully that gets through. That's exactly it. Yeah, exactly it.
But, like, just remember that as you're going through your journey and you're learning, like there's no such thing as, like, a Jesus Christ of restaurants. There's nobody that's going to give you, like, here's the thing I'll sell you. It's going to ROI 5,000%. You hear that, like, just turn off.
Yeah, for sure.
They're not real people. They don't understand. They don't execute. It's garbage.
It is.
And I think that you just have to, you get to those 20 things, you know, how you just improve on each one of them every year. And, you know, for me, it's worked. In 10 years, I'm in a better place now than I was 10 years ago. And I'm excited to see where I'll be 10 years from now. And if you've not started this point, it's a little bit of a weird tangent, but if you've not started this point in your life, like, developing those skills and learning and working on that, listening to this podcast is a great start.
Yeah.
But, you know, start now, because, you know, you're going to be full of regret 12 months from now.
Absolutely.
Not started.
And a lot of this stuff just takes a lot of time, because it's one of these things where you're not just going to hear it the first time and be like, hey, you know, I've learned everything and I'm just going to go put it into practice. It kind of takes a lot of time for this stuff to sink in. You kind of have to plant the seeds now, and then you actually reap it a bit later, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, well, we've talked a lot about, I guess we've almost gone to the passage of life, but you know, I think this is very important, because for most people their business does actually end up becoming their life, and learning how to navigate that definitely has a lot of parallels. You know, there's a lot of parallels between your life and your business, but
it's the same. There's no such thing as work-life balance when you own your own business. Like that goes away
for sure
immediately.
Yeah.
Like the day you get serious about it is the day it goes away, because you're, like I said, working on it 24/7. If you're in my position where your family's involved with the business,
it's even more, man.
Family dinners are talked about that. Oh yeah, and like and I feel so bad for my wife. It drives her crazy. But like if we go to my parents' house on Sunday for dinner, it's going to come up. Like it's just you can't not talk.
It's hard to escape it, right? It's always there, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think let's try talk now about a bit more specific stuff with restaurants, because you've obviously got a lot of experience and you've seen a lot of stuff. I think let's try to drill down into some actual specific strategies and specific things that can help people. All right, so I think briefly, so what would you say some of the most important, I guess, marketing or growth strategies that you put into practice that have actually paid off for you are?
I think step one was realizing that product doesn't.
Hey man, I'm sorry. Can you say that one more time? Because it kind of just got a little bit cut out over there. Because I think you're gonna say something important that I want to. Nah, okay, man.
Yeah. The most important thing that I've learned with marketing my business and other people's businesses is that people obsess about their product way too much. Like people are obsessed with, I have a better product than you. And like, maybe you do, maybe you don't. It's really subjective. It's impossible to measure.
Yeah.
Your product really at the end of the day doesn't matter. As long as it's above average and adequate, like that's not what people are going to remember. What people are going to remember is the story they tell themselves after they interacted with your product, right? And that's the thing you've got to get really good at as a restaurant owner. Is you go, okay, what do I stand for as an owner? Is it, you know, I'm not in on this, but some people are like, it's got to be sustainably raised, whatever.
Yep.
Back to the pigs, right? Sustainably raised pigs. Like that's your story. Like that's all the story you got to tell. Keep telling them that story every day, over and over and over again, all your marketing material around it. And this is high-level stuff. This is strategy stuff, not like put this on Facebook. Right now, start at the top with like, where are we going with this? And it's, you know, find out what it is your brand stands for, and then just hammer that. For Lyles BBQ, what we stand for is a backyard barbecue experience. I don't know if you guys have backyard barbecues in Australia.
Sadly, no, man.
Instagram photos all the time.
Well, I mean, apparently you see a lot of photos, but it's definitely not near me. Or at least I'm not a part of it.
You got to get to a different city.
For sure, man, I do.
See, like, there's a, you know, there's this weird, it's not weird, but there's a interesting, like, barbecue, I'm on Instagram, and I see their, like, barbecue photos, and it's really growing in Australia. I think it might be in the niche, but, like, you know, basically what we try to do here in Lexington is at our restaurant, when you come in, you need to feel like you're eating with our family. That's why we branded my mom as Mama Lyles. So now it feels like your mom, because you're calling her Mama Lyles. Consciously, you're like, oh, I'm going to my family's place to eat. And, you know, then all of our marketing material is around just making you happy and laugh. Like that feeling you get hanging out with good friends and family. And, you know, all of the stuff we do, whether that's, you know, whether we decide to run a radio ad or we decide to do a video on YouTube, everything needs to circle back to, I felt like I was hanging out with my family.
Okay.
That's the sort of like core, you know,
core theme of the whole thing.
Why?
Okay. All right. So
it's the thing at the core that drives everything else.
Okay. So as a high level strategy, what you would recommend people to focus on is focusing on their story and the experience that you leave customers with, and just trying to essentially get your story out there to the customers and make them feel that, right?
Yeah, what emotion, like when your customer leaves you, when they give you money, what emotion are they buying? Like, Think about that.
I think that's a fantastic point.
What emotion do they get back?
Yeah.
And for us, it's happiness and connection. It's that sort of emotion. For you, it might be like a sense of, with the online ordering app, it might be a sense of security and confidence that we're not losing market share to competitors. There's an emotion that happens when I exchange money for your goods or service. And that's the thing. Most people don't do that. They just start with like, we have the best, ribs on the planet. We have the fastest app on the planet. We have it's all the stats. That's all. It's like death by PowerPoint. In marketing. And who likes being in a meeting where the guy just drones on bullet point by bullet?
Nobody.
Nobody. But we do the same shit in our marketing. We're like, oh, why isn't my marketing working? Marketing's a joke. It doesn't actually work. Like, that's actually not true. It's because people don't know how to connect their story to their product.
Dude, I think that's such a
We're really good at telling you the story of why you should eat it.
I honestly feel like that is such a fantastic point, because it's something that I never even really thought about, and I don't think I've heard it anywhere, which is focusing on how the customer feels when they've made that transaction, because that's so important, right? If they're paying the money and they instantly feel like, man, this wasn't good enough, they don't feel satisfied for what they're getting, they're obviously never going to come back. But if you're focusing on when they're giving you the money, they are happy, they feel like it was a great experience, then I think that obviously translates to actually building a good brand and building a loyal customer base, right? That's actually a super important point to focus on. So now, is there any other higher level things that you think one should focus on when it comes to marketing their brand and their business? Or would you say that's the main thing?
That's really the main thing.
Okay.
The other thing, that's 1A to the 1B of, you and I both are big fans of Gary Vaynerchuk, and he's doing a really good job right now of taking the marketing principle of business and really telling, people how to react to that, right? He's not making anything new up with marketing.
Yeah, for sure.
Doing the best at it right now.
Yeah.
And, what he would tell you to do and what principles would tell you to do is to market where people are paying attention. And, that's let's say there's 10 different ways to market your business, right? Facebook, Instagram, and then all the way down to billboards, radio, television, and print media. There's a bunch of different options. Let's say your marketing budget is $5,000 a month. Start at the top and then work your way down. And when the money runs out, it runs out. But prioritize 1 to 5 where the most attention is, and where the least attention is. All of it works. It's just all. It just depends on where it's priced at, right? A company like Toyota, that's a worldwide business that has billions of dollars to spend on advertising every year, they can do 1 through 10, and they can do it better than you because they have all the money to do it. Again, that just is what it is. You've got to find a better way. Like we talked about earlier with owning it.
Exactly.
Jackets is good. That's what they do. Cool. We're going to connect our on. Right. And by the way, 90 restaurants, especially 1 to 2 unit locations, will never get their marketing budget beyond Facebook and Instagram before it plateaus.
I think I completely agree. So now,
that's at the end of March 2019. If you're listening to this in 2020, I don't know. I don't know.
It's very important in the prefix because the stuff does change really, really, really fast. And these platforms are getting more and more expensive day by day. Like when you first started on Facebook and Google and whatnot a long time ago, it was super cheap. But essentially now that the demand for all of it's gone up.
4 years ago, when we were a tent, we were doing Facebook ads. And it'd spend $5, and 50,000 people would see the ad. It was amazing.
Talk about ROI, man.
But it would, and that's part of the reason we were able to grow like we did. But now, $5 buys me I don't even know, maybe 1,000. It's ridiculous.
It's changed a lot.
How expensive it is. Yeah. But it's still a lot cheaper than doing television or radio. Plus, you get better. Better eyeballs on it, right?
So now, in terms of the actual details of it, I guess what particular channels of marketing you feel have been most effective for you? Do you feel like going social was most effective, or do you feel just focusing purely on when someone's there and focusing on the interaction, or it's kind of this, we have to go down these channels of everything and see what's working good?
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So we tried, one month we would try this, 1 month we would try that.
Mm-hmm.
And, you had to go through that process of learning and educating yourself. So we tried, we tried radio 1 month, we tried print media 1 month, we tried billboards 1 month. The billboards were funny because it was like $2,500, and I think 3 people came in. It was complete.
So then how did you measure that? I mean, did you ask people, did you see us on the billboard, and did you get those numbers from that? Okay, all right.
Yeah, so 2 ways. One, that was back when we were in the gas station, so I was literally working the register every day, and I was fanatical about, how'd you hear about us? First time, how'd you hear about us? And tell us.
Yeah.
And we would mark that down, and we would track that. And it's always been, referrals are always your number one source of business.
Yeah.
So just treat the customers you do have really well, because they're going to refer you business. That should be a given, and let's make sure that's clear. That's number one.
For sure.
That's the first form of marketing is referrals.
Yep.
So I'm going to assume you're doing that right.
Yeah.
Just you have a good product, you treat people well when you're in the restaurant, you do the simple things right, and that's it. We're
that is the basics, right? That is the basics, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, if you need help with that, your restaurant's already out of business. I need to tell you that.
Yeah, that's the core part, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a totally different thing. I'm talking about getting new customers in and getting current customers to come back more frequently.
Yeah.
But referrals will always be your number one source. But it's just not realistic to build an entire business on referrals. It's unless you just invent something that's never been seen before, it's just not going to happen. Don't let anybody tell you need to do that and swim in the blue ocean and not the red. Shut up. You're not reinventing barbecue.
Yeah.
Just execute better than everybody else, longer than everybody else, and it will work out.
Yeah.
So anyway, so to hone in on tactical things, you need to spend the time 10, 20 hours on YouTube watching tutorials on how to effectively run Facebook and Instagram ads. You don't need to make it super complicated, but just think about it everybody's on Facebook and Instagram. You just want them to see your photo and see your logo. You don't even need a call to action necessarily. Just having that every day is great for you. And if you're going to run Facebook and Instagram ads, please don't let me meet with you and you say, I tried Facebook ads, it didn't work. I spent $50 over a month and I got no results.
Yeah.
No doubt. You're laughing because you've heard this story.
For sure, man. For sure.
I tried online ordering. It didn't really work. Did you run any sort of ad to push it? Or did you try it? Tell people about it. You got to put in the work to make the thing work. Right?
Yeah.
And so what you got to realize with Facebook is that it's a machine learning algorithm. And it takes time for that algorithm to understand who's going to most interacting with your brand. And
absolutely.
So, you give Facebook some money, they're not going to know.
Yeah.
It reaches there. It's never coming back. Stop complaining about it. I don't care that you have 10,000 followers and only 500 see your stuff. Deal with it. It's a business, they want to make money.
Yeah.
It's still, even with all that being said and all that history, giving them money to promote your photo in front of people's eyeballs is the most valuable thing you can do for your business. And if you do what I told you to do of layering feelings, emotion, and story on top of that photo, and it's a photo of you as the owner with the food, explaining the story about how important sustainably raised pork is for you. Or in our example, it would be a photo of my mom pouring barbecue sauce on a pulled pork sandwich and a story about how she started. That's the sort of thing that really amplifies Facebook.
Yeah, that actually connects with people, right?
Yeah, even in 2019, it's still effective to just take a nice, high-quality photo of your food and promote it, and then a simple call to action in there of join our email list, get 10% off, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing in this podcast we can give people that's going to be step 1, step 2.
Yeah, for sure.
My advice is go onto YouTube, 9 p.m. to midnight for the next 2 weeks. Watch every video you can find about Facebook ads, Facebook marketing, Instagram marketing, and just consume it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, otherwise, you're going to have to pay somebody like me, a profit percentage to come in and do it for you.
Yeah.
And some people got the money, like
Sure, man. Yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong about that. Absolutely.
yeah, but if you don't, like, you're going to have to put in the work to learn, because if you don't learn, you're going to go out of business, and you should be afraid of that.
And the same thing with the Facebook ads and everything, is that right? This is also an iterative process. Like, there's a very low chance you're actually going to get it right the first time. You kind of just have to go in there, test it out, and keep improving a little bit over time. You know, there's no point in going in there and expecting it to just be perfect, you know, straight away. And if you do that, you're going to be disappointed, right? And you're not going to,
We spend about, we set as a budget 5% for ads on Facebook and or marketing in general. So think about whatever your revenues at your restaurant, like, it really should be 5%.
Okay.
Because even if you don't need to spend money on marketing to drive traffic, like, spending that money is like investing in your business, and you're investing in, like, securing your current brand position, and it makes it less likely that guys like me will open up a restaurant in your market and take your market share away from you, because you've been for 4 or 5 years investing in building that brand. Like, it's crazy, man. I get stopped in the grocery store here, and people go like, "Oh, hey, are you Chandler from Lyles BBQ?" Like, I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Oh, I love your videos." I'm like, "I'm not a celebrity. I'm not anybody. I just happen to put my photo up about my restaurant, and people see that enough, and then they recognize me in public, right? Like, it happens. It happens way more than it should. It's freaky. But it's what helps.
That would be quite freaky.
And everybody else. What?
I'm saying that would be quite freaky, right? Because it's like that feeling of you're just a normal guy, and the next minute feel kind of famous or something. People are asking you what's up.
Yeah, in the same way, like a used car salesman that did his ads on television 40 years or 30 years.
They still recognize,
like,
people still
recognized him. It's the same thing. It's just it's on Facebook, and it's on the internet. I should say, and people don't know how to react to that yet. They don't know that that's normal yet. And 10 years from now, it will be the normalized thing.
Probably.
These kids coming up.
For sure.
Yeah,
that is where the attention is, right? The attention, I mean, at the end of the day, whether you like it or hate it, the attention is on the smartphones, it's on the devices, and it's probably where you need to be going.
Back to the good thing, right? Attention's on the smartphone. Good.
Hey, it's actually easy as well, you know. Exactly. Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to tie it back in here.
You can opine for the days of running TV ads all you want. It's never coming back.
It's never coming back, man. For sure.
Time.
Yeah.
I'm coming to get you.
Yeah.
That's, I'm coming to get market share.
Yeah.
Like, because we're competing. This is capitalism. It's open market. Like, we don't all get trophies. Like, you better figure it out, or I'm going to come.
And I think a very important point in this as well is that, right, the same way how TV has kind of, I guess, the actual return on investment of TV ads, and the same thing with the billboard you said, right, like you put this billboard out and you got 3 people come in. The thing is, pretty much over time, the actual attention you can capture with a marketing channel kind of dies out, because people get so used to it, they've seen it over and over and over again. And there's a chance that, in fact, most likely in the future, the same thing is going to happen to Facebook, and people will just, and it's already happening. People are just learning to kind of zone it out. So you kind of have to take this opportunity while you can.
We went from taking just photos of our food on iPhone and promoting that, and that was good enough to drive traffic, to where that's really saturated out. People are seeing the little sponsor tag under my username, so they kind of ignore that photo now. And so now we've changed it up. So we're doing, like, I recently did a video where me and a guy that owns a donut shop went to McDonald's, and they had this promotional item here called a donut stick, and so we went and we reviewed that product, and it was funny, and, like, that's the next iteration of competing for
attention,
eyeballs, something different.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
Constantly moving and updating.
Yeah. I think a good point to that is try to give value to the people who you're marketing to first. Try to make it interesting. Don't just try to straight out slam your product in there, but at the end of the day, that's better than nothing. That's a start, but the natural progression is, as you said, make it a bit more, about something of actual value than your product.
I look at every customer like a savings account, okay? And I look at every time I give them something for free, whether it's a free sandwich or a video where I'm just entertaining them, and I literally am not asking for anything other than trying to entertain them with my video, I'm depositing money into that bank account. It's not cheap to deposit money, right? but I put money in that bank account. Like, this is going to get a little technical. Like, I put money in that bank account, and that savings account starts to earn interest, and that interest that comes back to me is revenue.
Yeah.
And that's how accessible.
That is a fantastic analogy, honestly. That is an absolutely awesome analogy. Yeah.
People look at customers where they have a zero bank balance, and they wonder why isn't this investment paying me any money? Like, of course it's not paying you any money.
Because you didn't put anything in it. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, if you put nothing into it, why would you expect to get something out?
Yeah.
That it literally does not make sense.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, absolutely.
that with a restaurant owner that's like, well, this person, you know, they came in one time and they didn't love me. Well, why should they?
Yeah,
like,
that's it.
They gave you money. They overdrew their account.
You need to be loving them, man.
Yeah,
for sure.
Don't overdraw your bank account, and that's the way I look at it.
I think that's a fantastic way.
In the overdraft, they're going to tack on fees.
Yeah.
And fees get expensive, it's more overdraft.
Yeah.
And it's a negative cycle. You got to flip it.
Fantastic analogy. Honestly, I definitely want to. I'm definitely going to elaborate that at some point, because I think, you know, when people give you these new perspectives to actually view things through, that's when I think sometimes, you know, you probably heard things 1,000 times. When you get to that different perspective, the actual switch flicks, and then it makes sense. You're like, oh yeah, right. And I think that particular analogy about viewing your customer as like the piggy bank, you know, I mean, you have to put something in there and then it comes back. That's a fantastic way to put it, honestly.
Yeah.
So you've honestly given a lot of incredibly valuable things out. I'm sure there's a lot more I can extract, but probably taking up a lot of your time as well. So how long have we gone for now? 1 hour.
Save it for
round two, man. Round two.
Back and do it again.
Dude, for sure. I would absolutely appreciate that. Before we just call it, because I know that we could probably just honestly talk endlessly about things, I definitely think we need to have round two. Why don't you just quickly tell us, all right, what do you think the most important factors of success are for someone starting a restaurant? Like, what should they be focusing on in order to succeed? I think you've kind of covered this through the whole thing, but maybe you can just quickly reiterate one time what should be the main focus to succeed.
I think that you should have a obsession about the customer experience. You should be so obsessed that you understand when the customer comes in, this is every touch point they had at the business, and I'm crafting that purposefully. There's nothing that happens by accident. Everything is planned. Everything is precise, and there's a system in place to make sure that experience is great every single time. So whether that's when they come into your restaurant, like, it's clean, it looks this way, people talk this way, people dress this way. All those different levels of the front of house are what's going to really drive your success. And people usually go the opposite way. They start with what's in the kitchen, how nice is my kitchen, how nice is my chef, how cool is my menu, like, they start inwardly instead of focusing on the customer first. And honestly, if you just focus on the customer and what they want, and you listen to their feedback and you seek their feedback, and you have like obsessive standards about how the customer's service experience is experienced, then you'll just accidentally be successful. Like, honestly, it is something that I am obsessed with, and you have to find a way to convey that to all of your front of house employees. It is what it is. The culture of the restaurant employee is what it is. There's nothing you can do to change it. You've got to find a way to obsess about getting them on the same page. And motivating them, explaining to them how it works with them is important, but just simply put, obsess about the customer experience.
That is a fantastic answer, man. And I think that actually just recaps most of what you said as well, right? Because I think that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Even before, you were saying that, you know, it's all about when the customer gives you that dollar, what are they feeling? And what you said kind of just touches that point, is that it's all about creating that experience such that when they give you that dollar, they leave feeling happy and feeling that what they did was worth it, right?
Yeah, I call it the 1 to 3 rule. When you give me $1, I need you to have 3 times the value back.
Okay.
And then I still have putting +2 in that bank account. That's if we mess something up, like, that's a -10.
Yeah.
I'm giving you +30, so I get, I'm trying to get all of that back. So we overindulge on mistakes, and we try to really, really fix them and hone them. And you know, mistakes happen, but just that a constant obsession with customer and customer bank balance. Like that is my two things that if you take nothing else away from this, like those are the things that I really you should really focus on.
Awesome, man. Awesome. All right, well, let's wrap it up there. But before we do that, all right, why don't you tell us a bit about where we can find you online, where we can follow you, website, Instagram, YouTube, you know?
Yeah, you can find. I'll keep it simple. Right, you need to like. My obsession in 2019 is YouTube, so just search Chandler Lyles on YouTube, and it'll come up. We do a ton of videos about business and business philosophy and business practicality and how do you grow and how do you succeed. And even more of that content is coming out, and it's we do some blogging on there as well. So it's kind of like the documenting of what I'm doing and how I'm growing. And that's my biggest regret, is that I don't have all that video footage from the past 5 years. I'm not going to make that mistake again. So I would really, if you like this episode, if you like anything I spouted, I would love for you to follow me on YouTube and subscribe, because that's like my obsession. If you don't like YouTube, you're not on there. I'm on Instagram at Chandler Lyles, and I'm happy to go through my DMs and talk to you there as well. So I'd really appreciate it if you guys follow.
Yeah, guys, I would definitely recommend checking out his YouTube channel, because I've seen a lot of the content, and it is just, it's mostly just really fun, you know what I mean? You can see recipes, you can see his life, you can see what he's going through, and I think there's just a lot to be learned from what you're putting out there. And seriously, keep it up, because I think in time it will you'll probably really help a lot of people through what you're doing over there.
I appreciate it, man. My life's goal is to lead, inspire, and develop. Those are my three values. We talked about that a little bit earlier. I don't make career decisions unless they sync up with leading people, inspiring people, and developing people to be better, happier, healthier versions of themselves. So that's the undercurrent of obsession with that channel, is leading, inspiring, and developing. So if that's something you're interested in, I'd love to have it.
For sure. Thank you again, man. I really appreciate you doing this. I'm sure everyone's going to get a hell of a lot of value from this, and I really hope we can do this again, because I'm sure there's a lot more to pick your brain, and maybe next time we can get a bit more in the details, because most of what we talked about was really high-level stuff, but it's all still important at the end of the day. So I'm really glad we got to go through it.
That's good. It's a good episode 1 of the trilogy. Episode 2 we get down in the weeds, and episode 3 we go all the way down and then come back to resolution in a proper story circle.
And there you have it. What an absolutely amazing interview that was. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe, and if you think anyone else is going to find this valuable, then share it with them as well. Next time we're going to be bringing on a lot more industry professionals that you guys can pick their brains and learn from. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Till next time.